start another live stream. Just hopefully I'm live and it's actually working okay. Let me check that it's working correctly. Okay, I'm gonna share this. Yes, it's working okay. I can hear myself. That's thumbs up. So post this both Twitter and give me a sec. LinkedIn. Let's pop that in. Okay. It's done. Shall we fix my OBS? By the way, yeah, put likes, subscribe, whatever. Yeah. You know what to do. We have a new logo. Put on the screen like that. Have the screen capture and the detector thing. Just oop. Why is it so? Ah, wait a sec. Order, transform, fit to screen. Right, we want it somewhere. Get rid of that thing in the bottom. Yeah, we can make it bigger. Doesn't hurt. That's working okay. Okay, we have a screen going. Yeah, the live stream is a bit delayed by a second or so, 2 seconds maybe. So trying to publish this tool. It's a NeuroVista EG data viewer. It's reviewing 16 EEG, 16 channel. EEG, it looks like that. We have an option, a couple of options there. Change the separation between channels. This window doesn't scale, that's odd. It's another thing we probably should solve before. I mean, we can do this, but it's gonna faking it. It's weird how this thing can go the other way as well. It's a bit odd, but okay. If it's working, we are not complaining. So separation works fine. You can just have them separated a little bit, overlaid. Default is 2000. You can also separate them further apart. Group by side. Again, this is 8 channels on the left, 8 channels on the right. That's working well as well. This thing stops working when group by side is selected. Overlay all as well. This thing doesn't work anymore. We have to actually fix it. So it's like grayed out or disabled. And off is the default option. And yeah, we can do this. that whatever everything works fine. Someone joined in, we can say hello in the chat, just to test the chat as well. So that's what we have so far with this tool. Pretty much ready to be published. So it will appear on Biomedical's IEG Review 16 channel. So it will replace this one here. It will have the same link. It'll probably go up at the bottom in the tools list. However, before publishing it, just want to sort out a few minor issues. One is the window is not scaling, or not scaling properly, or not scaling at all. Also, when loading the page, we get those weird default options with this ugly colors, which we don't like. Then they change. So essentially the problem is, if you go into a network, that the proper colors and proper view is only loaded after get plot data finished loading, which is not ideal. So we have that. Yeah, so the const colors is not being used when loading the first time. Instead, some default colors are used. Get plot data, that's probably not correct. So that's not correct. Colors are loaded correctly only after get plot data finished loading. Right. Now the other question with ChatGPT is this chat, so pop this in, wondering if it still has the context of everything we discussed so far. Probably not. Apply colors after fetch. Yeah, I didn't realize before, just learned today that fetch is an asynchronous call. So it could be causing some trouble. It seemed to, so GPT seemed to have all the context of the previous conversation. So it didn't forget. Let's see what it says.
Given your explanation, it seems like the issue is specific to the
I can't hear any.
script and the timing of when the colors are applied. Here's a detailed explanation of the problem and how to address it.
You can hear it
The const colors is defined
because it's my stream, but I can't hear the sound. Why not? One sec.
Leading to the default colors being used initially. Apply colors after data fetch. Ensure that the
Okay, now I can hear, but you cannot. Properties, default, yes.
as expected.
Okay, now you can hear as
You can
well.
refactor the fetch operation to use async.
Let's
Await
start
better
again.
readability and
Because
Given
it's
your explanation,
important.
it seems like the issue is specific to the asynchronous nature of JavaScript and the timing of when the colors are applied. Here's a detailed examination of the problem and how to address it. The const colors is defined, but it's not being applied when the data is first loaded because the get_plot_data fetch operation is asynchronous. The plot might be getting rendered before or during the fetch operation, leading to the default colors being used initially.
Wait a second, let's start again. I wasn't listening.
Given your explanation, it seems like the issue is specific to the asynchronous nature of JavaScript and the timing of when the colors are applied. Here's a detailed examination of the problem and how to address it. The const colors is defined, but it's not being applied when the data is first loaded because the get_plot_data fetch operation is asynchronous. The plot might be getting rendered before or during the fetch operation, leading to the default colors being used initially. Apply colors after data fetch. Ensure that the colors are applied immediately after the data is fetched and before the plot is rendered. Asynchronous handling. Make sure the asynchronous fetch operation is fully completed before trying to apply the colors and render the plot. Here's a refactoring of the code to ensure colors are applied as expected. You can refactor the fetch operation to use async await for better readability and control over asynchronous operations. Make sure the colors application logic is completed before calling the plotly rendering function. This is addressed in the async await refactoring above.
Right, async wait. So we have DOM content loaded event. We have get plot data. This is very different from what we changed quite a bit. Let's save. Create a copy. Wait, let's delete that because what we have so far is working well. Just create a copy for this session, just in case we totally mess up something. So I understand what's trying to say. Try catch fetch. We have catch error. This catch error, just do this for a sec. Format document, no, that's fine. Sketch. Fetch catch. Okay. Essentially, do we need const response? Why can't we just do can we just add or wait fetch? Should that be it? No. We need a try. This would not work. What happened to my camera? I have to move it a bit. Yeah, this is better. Okay, let's see. So I can't just replace fetch with await fetch. That just wouldn't work. I have to do that. Const response console if response okay. So we don't need that, I assume. See in a sec. We need this. Do I have it already? No. I'm pretty sure we don't. Do we need to? We already have const data, no. Await response. We already have that though. Okay, that's commented out. It will tell you what to add, but it doesn't tell you what to remove, which is a bit odd. Can we? Or just make a zillion of mistakes? We'll just generate the whole thing, maybe. Generate a whole JavaScript file that incorporates async await. It should solve a problem of how the page is being loaded to begin with. Question is, data overlay, does it have everything, or so I have about 130, say 135 lines of code. This is not all of it, is it? Copy code. No, there's only 96. What's missing?
Certainly. Below is a complete JS file that incorporates various enhancements and debugging based on the issues you described. I've used async await for handling asynchronous operations neatly and ensured that colors are applied after the data is fetched but before the plot is rendered. Asynchronous handling, I used async await to handle the fetch operation. It makes the code more readable and ensures that the operations following the data fetch wait until the data is fully received and processed. Color application. Colors are applied to the data traces immediately after the data is fetched and before the plot is initialized. Debugging. You can add more console.log statements where needed to monitor the flow of operations and the state of variables at different stages of the process. Error handling. A try-catch block is used to handle errors during the data fetch and processing steps. Event listeners. Event listeners for window resize, overlay options change, and separation value change are added after the plot is initialized. Make sure to adjust and test the code as per your specific requirements and scenarios. This example is a comprehensive attempt to address the color application and asynchronous data fetching issues you described.
Okay, I'm not sure how the code is much shorter, but let's give it a go. Reload a page. Well, first it didn't solve the issue. Still working. Okay, that stopped working, so obviously that's missing from the code. Yeah, it's funny how it will. I asked to generate the whole thing and it did. Then it forgot you removed a few things. I don't know why. Doesn't have couldn't see any comments for what was removed. The other thing is that it still doesn't work. It didn't solve the problem. Just restart the. Yeah, it still does that. Which I'm trying to prevent. Let's see. Some issue with my stream. There's like probably too much stuff going on. Sorry for that. Let's try again. Yes, it seems like when the JavaScript so we have this thing. So get static GJS is loading the data, but using incorrect colors. After get plot data is fixing the colors. So I'm not sure if we should wait. Essentially want nothing to be displayed. Yeah, there's a race condition. Classic. Should say classic because I didn't know how to fix it, right? So it's suggesting a correction. Don't know why the previous thing it suggested didn't work. Let's see.
This issue appears to be a race condition where the plot is being rendered before the colors can be applied, or the colors are applied after the initial rendering, leading to the correct colors only appearing on the subsequent load of data. Here's a refined approach to solve this issue. Here's the updated EG.js. The key is ensuring that the colors are applied as soon as the data is fetched and before initiating the plotly plot. Fetch data function. This asynchronous function is responsible for fetching the data. It ensures that no further operation is conducted until the data is fully retrieved. Apply colors to data function. This function is used to apply colors to the data traces immediately after the data is fetched. It iterates through each trace and assigns a color from the colors array. Render plot function. This asynchronous function initiates the plotly plot. It is called only after the colors have been applied to the data traces. Execution order. The order of function calls ensures that the data is first fetched, then colors are applied, and finally, the plot is rendered. This sequence ensures that the colors are applied correctly on the initial load. This refactoring ensures that the colors are applied after the data is fetched but before the plot is rendered, addressing the issue of incorrect colors being used during the initial load. Adjust and test this script according to your specific needs and implementation.
Right, so what was changed? Don't full load, try. Stop with that. Right, get this one. We have that localhost bit. Bring it in later. Now we have a function called fetch data. Already have, no, we didn't have that function. Pretty sure we had render plot. And no. Okay, let's try this. And no, that's still the same. What's up? It still does that funny business. Let's restart the whole thing. Okay, that didn't work. It didn't work. It almost knows that it wasn't correctly applied, so it wasn't solved, the color issue. Let's pop it in here. Yeah, it still does that where the colors are incorrect. The default view option is incorrect as well.
Check data retrieval timing. Verify that the data is being fully retrieved before the color application and plot rendering steps. You can use console.log statements to confirm this. Check data retrieval timing. Verify that the data is being fully retrieved before the color application and plot rendering steps. You can use console.log statements to confirm this. Examine the apply colors to data function. Make sure this function is correctly applying the colors. Add log statements to print the color of each trace after this function runs to confirm. Inspect the plot rendering timing. The plot should be rendered after the colors have been applied. If there's a delay or asynchronous issue, the colors might not appear correctly initially. Cache or browser issue. Clear the browser cache or try a different browser to rule out the possibility of a caching issue causing the older default colors to be loaded initially. Review Plotly documentation. Ensure that there's no inherent behavior or setting in Plotly causing the colors to be overridden or delayed in their application. Server-side data handling. Check if there's anything on the server side that might be affecting how the data, and therefore colors, are being handled or delivered to the client side. Ensure that data is being sent as expected and without delay. The script is well structured, and with proper debugging and the steps above, you should be able to resolve the color application issue effectively. Make sure to test thoroughly in various scenarios and browsers to ensure consistent behavior.
Okay, let's try now browser. Let's try Firefox. Just on another screen. Sec. No, it's the same. It is the same. So that async thing didn't help. Yeah, I don't know how to solve this. Yeah, I don't think it's browser caching.
Modify the data directly when fetched to include the color information, ensuring that the color data is embedded within the fetched data.
There's something super weird happening with my face detector. It's like when I'm talking and letting this yellow thing under my mouth. Why? Why is that happening? Or is it only when the text-to-speech is working?
If the color issue still persists, it indicates there may be a deeper underlying issue, either with the order of execution of the JavaScript or some specifics with the Plotly library or even the browser caching mechanism. Here are additional steps and refinements to address this issue. Adding more debugging logs to understand at which step a color is not being applied. Place this log inside the apply colors to data function to confirm that colors are being applied. Force a re-render after the plot has been displayed. This might be a workaround to get the colors to display correctly on the first load. Sometimes the browser caches the JavaScript files, and your changes might not be reflected immediately. Clear the browser cache or disable caching during development. Modify the data directly when fetched to include the color information, ensuring that the color data is embedded within the fetched data. Ensure that the Plotly library is updated to the latest version. Sometimes bugs in the library can cause unexpected behaviors. As a last resort, introduce a small delay before rendering the plot to give enough time for all operations to complete.
Yeah,
After initial plot rendering, explicitly update the colors using Plotly's update mechanism. Remember to investigate the asynchronous nature of JavaScript and how it's handling the fetch and rendering operations. Adjustments might be needed to ensure that operations are occurring in the expected sequence. Ensure also that there are no overriding styles or configurations within the CSS or other parts of the JS that might be conflicting with the expected behavior.
Yeah, we might want to do this. Let's see if this helps. It's like a worst case. What? That made things worse. Some sort of weird default situation. Yeah, now it's working. Setting of a Plotly update. Are we using Plotly React? Yes. So that's assuming that the data array has both the layout. Did this work at all? No. Sorry, we totally messed it up now. Right. So of course doesn't work. Should work, but that won't solve anything. So we tried that. Fetch data. JSON. Add this bit. Could actually help. No. Doesn't help. Call supply to fetch data. Let's check it out. Where's the console? Why is this happening twice? So when it's appearing, no, I already have it. It's already working fine. Now it's just doing some guesswork. Don't like it. This should only appear once. Okay. Let's publish this anyway. So it has this, we'll call it a bug, call it a feature. If it's a bug that we can't solve, we just call it a feature. Otherwise, well, right, that doesn't work because we can revert to just rename this to didn't work. Or in other words, GPT. And we'll rename this back to EGJS. Let's go back, retest, and maybe we can share it on the site with this bug. This is a feature. So group side by side works okay. The colors remain the same. Overlay all works. And in off default version, you can select your separation value. So that's all working okay. Yes, there's quite a few improvements that we could do. Yeah, it's hard to move that thing. And the other thing is that this window doesn't scale properly. So that's unfortunate as well. Right, otherwise everything is working. There's some description at the bottom. We have the source of where the data is coming from. Okay, let's try publishing this. Should be this link here. So instead of publishing this HTML, which we already don't have, start a new chat. GPT-4. Yeah, just use the default. Explain nostalgia. No, we don't want to explain nostalgia. What we want is generate we already have a Flask application. We will like to add this application as another URL on existing Apache server site. Okay, might just do it, just continue next time. There's nothing in the chat.